Attention passionate Detroit, Lions fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Detroit Lions' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Detroit Lions fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Detroit Lions fans. Let's get to the news now, folks. If you've been paying attention to the NFC North lately, you know that the Detroit Lions are quietly building something special. The offseason has been a mixed bag in many ways, especially when it comes to their pass rush. For a team that's been itching to bridge the gap between being competitive and being elite, the question of how they strengthen their defensive front has been front and center. And surprisingly, the Lions haven't gone full throttle in the way we might have expected. They've held back from making big splash signings or high-profile trades for edge rushers. Instead, they've been somewhat cautious, or perhaps strategic, in their approach, choosing not to go after some of the more obvious names in free agency or trade markets. In fact, at the end of May, the Lions made a curious decision. They opted not to pursue a trade for Bryce Huff, the talented but disgruntled edge rusher from the San Francisco 49ers. Huff had been seeking a new team, and given his skill set, many fans thought he'd be an ideal fit to complement Aiden Hutchinson and bolster their pass rush. But Detroit decided to pass on that opportunity. And before that, they didn't draft or sign a free agent to fill that outside linebacker or defensive end spot. This strategy has left a lot of Lions fans scratching their heads, wondering if General Manager Brad Holmes and the coaching staff are perhaps banking on internal development, or maybe they see something in their current personnel that we don't yet fully appreciate. But what does this mean for the upcoming season? Well, it's caused some division among fans. Some believe that the Lions are confident in their current roster, and that the young core, led by Hutchinson, will take a major step forward. Others worry that the lack of added pass rush depth could be a potential Achilles heel, especially when facing high-powered offenses in the NFC. And that's where the recent developments come into play, because a surprising move last week has opened up a new avenue for Detroit to explore, one that could really tip the scales in their favor. Now I want to pause here for a moment because this is a huge story. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Detroit Lions news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. Yes, folks, it's that simple. Your support helps keep this community thriving and ensures you stay ahead of all the latest Lions updates. So, what's this big news? Well, just a few days ago, the Cleveland Browns made a move that could have major implications for Detroit. The Browns released veteran edge rusher Ogbo Okoronkwo, a player who, while not a superstar, has proven to be a reliable rotational pass rusher over the past few seasons. This release caught many by surprise, especially considering that Cleveland had just signed him to a 3-year, $19 million contract during the 2023 offseason. That contract signaled that they valued his contribution, but now, suddenly, he's available and free to sign with any team. This has sparked a lot of chatter among Lions fans, many of whom are trying to assess whether Okoronkwo could be a good fit for Detroit. Sure, it's tempting to compare him to Zadarius Smith, the big-name pass rusher that many have eyed as a potential signing or return candidate. Smith, after all, has been one of the more productive edge players in the league over the past few years, with a knack for getting to the quarterback and disrupting plays. But interestingly enough, despite Smith's reputation and past production, some analysts suggest that bringing in Okoronkwo might actually be a smarter move at this point in their careers. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Come on, why bring in someone who's less productive than Smith? Well, let's dig into the details. First, age is a factor. Smith is 32, while Okoronkwo is 30. While that might seem like a small difference, in football, especially on the edge rush, 2 years can be significant. Speed, explosiveness, and strength tend to decline with age. Players over 30 often see a drop-off in certain athletic traits, which can impact their effectiveness. So bringing in someone a bit younger, and perhaps more motivated, could actually be a strategic move. Looking at their stats, Okoronkwo has played 6 NFL seasons, accumulating a total of 132 tackles, 32 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, 4 pass deflections, and 4 forced fumbles. Not eye-popping numbers, but pretty solid for a rotational player. His best season was in 2022 with the Houston Texans, where he racked up 44 tackles, 9 TFLs, 5 sacks, 2 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. That year really showcased his potential as a disruptive force. The Texans, recognizing his talent, rewarded him with that 3-year deal with Cleveland, betting on his ability to contribute as part of their pass rush rotation. With the Browns, Okoronkwo has continued to show flashes of that potential. In 2 seasons, he's recorded 54 tackles, 17 TFLs, 5 sacks, and a handful of other impactful plays. His numbers might not jump off the page like some star pass rushers, but they're very respectable for a rotational player. What's promising is that he's been effective in high-pressure situations, often bringing pressure on quarterbacks and helping to set the tone in games. Now, what makes this particularly interesting for Detroit is the team's current roster composition. They've got Hutchinson, who's emerging as a premier edge rusher, but behind him, there's a need for consistency and depth. Za'Darius Smith, as I mentioned, is a proven commodity, but if the Lions can add someone like Okoronkwo, who's younger and still in his prime, they could create a formidable duo on the outside. Plus, having a rotation that includes multiple capable pass rushers is crucial in today's NFL, where offensive lines are increasingly sophisticated and deep. Some fans might be skeptical, thinking that Okoronkwo isn't enough to replace the potential production of Smith, or to fill that void if Smith were to leave in free agency. But the reality is, the Lions are in a unique position. They're building a sustainable, competitive team that relies on smart signings and internal development. Adding a player like Okoronkwo isn't about replacing a star. It's about adding depth, experience, and a player who can be productive in a rotational role, spell Hutchinson, and keep opposing offensive lines honest. Another aspect worth considering is how the Lions' coaching staff might view this move. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn has shown a knack for getting the most out of his players, especially in developing pass rush schemes that maximize pressure without relying solely on superstars. Bringing in a guy like Okoronkwo could fit perfectly into that philosophy, giving them more flexibility and options in their game plans. And let's not forget, the NFC North is only getting tougher. The Vikings have added pieces to their defense, the Bears are on the rise with young talent, and the Packers seem to be rebuilding around Jordan Love. The Lions, therefore, need to ensure their defense, especially the pass rush, is up to par. Every addition counts, and even a rotational guy like Okoronkwo can make a difference in key moments, be it sacking the quarterback, forcing turnovers, or just setting the tone early in games. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the historical context here, because it's important to understand the Lions' recent trajectory. Over the past few seasons, Detroit has been building steadily. They've got a solid core of young talent, including Hutchinson, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The defense has been improving, but it's still a work in progress. Last year, they finished with a record of 9-8, narrowly missing the playoffs, but showing enough promise to make fans optimistic about what's ahead. The coaching staff, led by Dan Campbell, is known for their gritty, physical approach and their ability to develop players. They've been crafting a team that plays with intensity, resilience, and a willingness to fight until the last second. Defense, especially pass rush, has always been a key ingredient in their recipe for success. So, a smart signing like Okoronkwo could be exactly what they need to add that extra punch. Moreover, the Lions have been aggressive in the draft in recent years, prioritizing young talent and high-upside players. Free agency has been somewhat measured, focusing on value rather than big-name signings. This strategy aligns with their philosophy of building through smart acquisitions and player development. Bringing in Okoronkwo, someone who's proven he can produce and fits within their salary cap structure, makes a lot of sense from a roster-building perspective. And let's talk about the fan perspective for a moment. Detroit fans are known for their passionate support, their loyalty, and their desire to see their team finally reach the promised land. Many have been longing for a dominant defense, especially a consistent pass rush that can threaten quarterbacks and turn games around. The idea of adding Okoronkwo might not be as flashy as a superstar signing, but it's a move that makes sense, pragmatic, strategic, and potentially impactful. Now, for the fans who are still skeptical, it's worth noting that sometimes, the most underrated players are the ones who can provide the most value. Depth, rotation, and situational pass rushing are often overlooked, but can be the difference between a good defense and a great one. If Okoronkwo can stay healthy and continue his upward trajectory, he could very well become a key piece in Detroit's defensive puzzle. And as we look to the upcoming season, it's clear that the Lions are aiming high. They're not just content with being contenders. They want to be division champions, playoff mainstays, and ultimately, Super Bowl contenders. Every move they make, from the draft to free agency, reflects that ambition. The potential addition of Okoronkwo is just one piece of that puzzle, but it could turn out to be a crucial one. So, in conclusion, while the Lions haven't made the blockbuster signing many expected, they're quietly exploring options that could make a significant difference. The release of Okoronkwo by Cleveland opens up a new possibility, one that could strengthen their pass rush and add depth to a position that's so vital in today's NFL. It's a strategic move that aligns perfectly with their philosophy of building a sustainable, competitive team, and it's one that could have ripple effects throughout the NFC North. As always, fans should stay tuned because the offseason is far from over, and Detroit continues to shape its destiny, one smart move at a time. And now, Detroit Lions fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Detroit Lions. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Detroit Lions news.